Welcome to the first episode of We Need to Talk in 2026. This will be the first of at least 52 episodes because I'm finally committing to making a podcast work. And in order to do that, all I need to do is put one foot in front of the other every week for 1 year. 52 episodes doesn't sound like a hard thing to do, but it's something that I've failed to do for the last 15 years. So you in real time are going to watch me succeed at something that I've failed to do but have wanted to do for a really long time. And as you can see, we have no guest. This is going to be me. This is a monologue episode, and it's going to have a theme of New Year, New Opportunity. Not New Year, New Me, which is what most of the people are looking at right now. Whether you're looking to change what you do with your body, looking to change what you do with your career, your life, any part of what you're trying to do right now, you think you need to change absolutely everything about what you did last year and become a whole new person. That doesn't happen overnight. That happens with repeated small actions that build up to becoming the person you want to be. And it also doesn't happen in 1 year. Like, yes, you can do a lot with 12 months, but we need to expand our timelines to be a little bit more patient. And to start this one off, because I want to pull people in with a little bit of a story, a little bit of a spiel, something that I think is pretty cool and something that called to me the other day when me and my partner and her father were on the way to watch the new Avatar movie. I had a vague recollection that James Cameron, the director, the writer, the creator of that series of movies, had written it a long time ago, but didn't make the movie because, well, the technology wasn't there to make the movie. And I went on a Google spree. I sent my AI assistant to go and get me the facts and make it to the letter true because I wanted to know exactly what went into it. And it turns out he wrote the whole thing, all five movies, the full story, in 1994. It's 2026 today. Yesterday was day one of the year. It's 30 years, more than 30 years, since this man wrote that. At the point that he wrote it, he already had huge success from a career perspective. He'd already done Alien, The Abyss, True Lies, Terminator 2, huge things in his career as a director. He'd already made it. And there's other parts that go into with this because I feel like in his mid 30s, because he's now 71, having done that 30 years ago, he was probably in that reflective stage of life where he wanted some spiritual growth after having some career growth. And I believe that he went and maybe did ayahuasca or had a journey in the jungle to come up with the idea of Avatar. Because if you haven't seen it, it pretty much describes what I believe to be the journey of sitting with Aya in the jungle. But that's neither here nor there for the point of this story. He had career success and very well could have went to nearly any studio in the world and said, I have this great idea for a 5 movie deal of a new sci-fi franchise that might rival Star Wars, might rival anything else that was out at the time. But instead, he was patient and said, you know what? The technology doesn't exist for me to do this story justice in the way I picture it in my head. We're now 30 years in, and he's only got the third movie out of 5 done. He has waited, some people, my personal lifetime, because I'm 33, he's waited as nearly as long as I've been alive to birth this idea onto the screen. And without seeming like one of those people that goes to a funeral and comes out and does a LinkedIn post about what business insights they got from their distant relative they haven't seen in 20 years dying, I got a bit of depth of idea from hearing this story on the way to this movie that doesn't matter to a lot of people. You need to expand the timeline of the ideas that you know are going to make a big impact to the world. Because he didn't just jump on it because he knew it was a good idea. He didn't procrastinate on it for no reason of saying, oh, I better wait till next year or till I've done this, till I've done that. He simply had the foresight to know he didn't have the technological capabilities to do what he wanted to do now and do it justice. So he gave it the time. He made sure the technology made up. He worked his way into finding the right actors for the right roles. He was patient, and now it's starting to pay off. Spoiler alert, it was a good movie. Some people don't like it. I loved it. There were some aspects of it that I thought were incredible. Some aspects that I really, after seeing the movie, I'm like, there's no way this man did not go to the jungle and do some medicine. Because this is not a spoiler part of it, but there is a scene within the movie where one of the villains of the movie, or I'd say probably the main villain of the movie, goes on a bit of a journey and ends up with a shamanic type of a person who wants to test his mettle and see what he's like, and brings him into their little hut that they've built where all of the magic happens and all of their spiritual rituals go down. She essentially puts this powder into her hand that's made of ash and all these different things, and scoops up a bone flute and says, "This is going in your nose." And I'm going, for anybody listening to this who's not been involved in the plant medicine world, essentially what I watched being given was hape or rape or whatever you want to say. It's essentially tobacco done ceremonially to ground somebody into their body. In this movie, it caused a psychedelic episode for that character. In reality, that's not really what rape, hape, however you want to say it does. It just grounds you into your body and gets you ready for whatever spiritual journey you're about to go on. In some cases, it's used as a way to cleanse the body, cleanse the soul before it goes on to the deeper medicine that opens you up to everything else. So this is not a podcast about medicine. This is a podcast episode conversation with myself about the opportunity and potential for the new year. And how we're going to frame the rest of this episode is I took a little bit of time to write a couple of questions to myself that we're going to answer live. So there could be parts of this where I'm thinking for a moment, and I'm not just going to jump to answer with the first thing that comes to my mind, but I'm going to aim to not give you too much silence. And I would hope that if you listen to this, you can maybe answer some of these questions for yourself or change some of the aspects of it to suit the journey you're on for 2026. And I'm going to put these questions in the show notes on YouTube, on Spotify, the two main places where this is, and I will probably do a Facebook, Instagram, etc. post with some of the detail. So the first one is, what if this year didn't need reinvention, just correction? Because it is very tempting, as I said at the beginning of this little monologue, to think you need to change everything about what you did last year. That is not helpful and it's not realistic. It may just need a course correction. So for me, for instance, with this podcast and the wider scope of what I'm trying to do with the Better Man program, I don't need to strip everything away and do a new thing. I just need to self-correct on the path that I take with inviting more people into the circle, with inviting more people into the program, and doubling down on me doing authentic content. Because it is useful for social media to do things that are trendy and catchy, and that's necessary in order to get more people to hear what you have to say. But I think it's more powerful and more useful and more authentic to speak the truth of the things that are important to me. So in 2026, the kind of content that I'm going to put out is going to be a lot more real to what I'm trying to do in my life, which 2026 is a big one for me. It's getting myself financially stable so that I can ask my partner to marry me, marry her by the end of the year, and if all goes well, start our family. Big, big goals for the year. In order for those things to happen, my business goals have to align with that because we have to get more revenue in the door. And to do that, I have to fulfill my life's purpose and mission, which is helping men to not feel dysregulated, to help men not feel shit, to put it for a simpler term. Because that's what the Better Man program is all about. It's not just about being jacked. It's far from that. So the content that I put out will reflect that. And into the next question, where am I leaking energy that I keep calling normal life? Me and Anya, my partner, and I guess for episodes that go forward, I should just refer to her by her name instead of my partner, because you will get to know her over time from my perspective. We had a very deep conversation on New Year's Eve. We didn't go out. If you don't know by now, I don't drink. I don't do drugs anymore. I'm on a sober life. I am looking around the screen. No, it's blocked off. There's a thing that pops up every day telling me how long I've been sober. Right now, I think it's 13/23. So 32 days clean, off alcohol, off other drugs, except for some magic mushrooms every now and again, a ceremonial position. But that's its own conversation. One of the things that came up is where we are leaking energy in our own relationship, where we are being complacent, and where we are not able to connect on the levels that we want to. And the place that I think we're leaking energy the most is in the evenings. That space where you come in after your busy day of work, and it's just easier to put on a TV show or a movie on Netflix or Disney. And it's becoming normal life because for a long time, that was not our normal. For a long time, I was completely out of the loop as to what's happening on Netflix, what people are watching, what things are going viral, because I just didn't watch TV. The last year and a half, it's crept in. We're like, what'll we watch this time? What series can we start? What movies are on the go? So one thing we're doing to change that is canceling the Netflix subscription, canceling the Disney Plus subscription. That's off the table. We're going to go to the movies every now and again because I love film. If you didn't guess that from the very beginning of speaking about James Cameron's journey to making Avatar, I'm a fan of a movie. And I think there's some value to watching movies because it can make you think about bigger parts of your life and give you context for things you're going through. But it shouldn't be an unconscious thing that happens every night no matter what. So we're cancelling those things to not take it completely off the table, but make it a lot more effortful to need to go and watch them. So, for example, one other thing we'll do apart from going out to the cinema is to actually go and buy a DVD. Recently enough, I pulled my PlayStation 2 out of my mother's attic. It still exists and it's able to plug into my TV. That is the first DVD player we've had access to in more than 5 years. That means that we can go to, I think it's called CEX. I won't say, yeah, it's Sex. That shop sells secondhand DVDs for like €2. So once every 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to have a stroll in, we're going to have a look and find something we really want to see and make a proper intentional date night. We'll make some good food, we'll sit down, we'll enjoy it, we'll connect rather than unconsciously just opening up the screen and playing absolute mind-melting, boring shit that we're watching for no reason. The next question is, what did last year teach me that I would be stupid to ignore? There's a few layers to this because it's probably more than one thing that I'd be stupid to ignore from the last year. The biggest thing layers into that previous question. It's falling into habits that make it difficult for me and my partner to connect. It's also the lesson that the more that I procrastinate on the things that make impact to my business and to my life, the bigger and harder it gets to sort those things out. If that's something that resonates with you, I'm sure there's something in your life that over the last year, you know, if you did sooner, would have been a lot easier to sort. For example, a weight loss journey. The longer you wait to lose weight, the harder it is to lose weight. If you gain a whole bunch of body fat, if you're 50 pounds over what you want to be, it's a lot harder to get control of than when you were 5 pounds. So for me, the biggest lesson that I'd be stupid to ignore is just taking action faster on opportunities. If I'm honest, what am I avoiding starting because it would expose me? This podcast. This is the one where it's very difficult to hide anything. So when I sit in front of a camera and talk until all the topics are covered, everything comes out. This isn't like a polished Instagram reel where you've got 90 seconds to get something right. It's long form discussion that puts everything out. And it exposes me because it could show content doing terrible. Some of the episodes so far have done, well, all of them have done less than 1,000 views. And that to a new person that lands on my page makes people think, is this person worth listening? So by me even just recording this video, I'm exposing myself as potentially unvaluable to listen to. And that's okay because I know as I do the reps and do this over the year, it's going to get better and better and better. And more people will join in, more people will listen and get value and get better lives, I hope, for the words that I put out to the world. What would change if I stopped waiting to feel ready? Again, same with this podcast. I stopped waiting to be ready a couple of weeks ago because I went off of a group call with a group of people in a business group that I'm involved with. All the cameras were set up and I said, fuck it, I'm just going to start this podcast. And what changed is I am now focused on doing this episode every week, which is going to give me some stability in how I speak. Next week, I'm going to take a meeting about doing this podcast in a studio for some of the bigger guests that have a more detailed story to tell so that I can give a higher production value to more emotionally weighted stories. So what changed was now I'm doing that. I'm talking to more potential guests, which is going to expand my network, which is going to make it easier for me to expand and chase my life's mission and purpose, which is helping men to be the best version of themselves. So if you're listening to that going, what would change if you stopped waiting to feel ready? Maybe that's as simple as your fitness journey. What would change is you would start feeling better in your body, you'd start having more energy, be more capable to find the things that are important to you in life. The next question, where am I outsourcing responsibility and calling it stress? Absolutely, it's my schedule. I allow my schedule to be the reason why I am stressed and can't do the things that need to be done in the house, or why I am stressed and I can't do the things that need to be done in my business, where I am stressed and don't make time to interact meaningfully with my partner or do all the important things. And I am outsourcing that responsibility to a lack of time that is my own doing because my schedule is ultimately under my own control. There's a couple of fixed points across the week for some coaching agreements I've got in place with the gym, but outside of that, there's like 140 hours that are all mine that I structure in a way, or at least I did last year, in a way where I've been able to use a lack of time as an excuse and covered it up by calling it stress. This year, that's not going to be a thing. I'm going to own my schedule. I'm not going to use time or lack of time as the reason I can't get things done. What am I capable of this year that scares me a little? Who? As I said earlier in this podcast, asking my partner to marry me, marrying her, making babies with her. That scares the shit out of me. I'm capable of doing that this year, and that scares me because then I have to be a husband and a father. Those are two incredibly important titles. They're two incredibly important responsibilities to put a lot of weight on a man's shoulders. That changes the levels of stress that I could go through enormously. Because right now, yes, I'm in a committed relationship with my partner. We share a house together. I have men that I help in my program. There is no locked in responsibility there in terms of a legal thing, in terms of a life to look after. Theoretically, right now, I could fucking disappear and go to Southeast Asia and never be seen again. That changes when you've got a marriage and a child. Just to caveat as I say that, in case my partner does listen to this, in case anybody is like, I'm not going to disappear and go to the other side of the world, I won't. I'm just using it as an inflammatory example as to the capabilities of what might change this year. That scares the hell out of me, but that scaring the hell out of me is why I'm going to be good at those things because they will matter. They're two of the most important things of what I want out of this life, never mind this year. If nothing comes to mind for you when you ask that question, you may need to take a bit of time to sit and journal on what you actually want out of this year, this decade, this life, to figure out what is it that sparks your fire, what scares you, where should you lean into it. To tie in with what scares me, if my son or future son, because I don't have one yet, watched how I live this year, what would he learn? I want him to learn that with consistent hard work and showing up as the man that you say that you are, you can get anything you want done and you can accomplish powerful things that change the world in a meaningful way. What I don't want him to know or learn is that I'm a lazy, incongruent, lacking integrity man who doesn't do the things that he says he does. If by the end of this year, my son could watch this year and go, my dad's a lazy cunt. I fucked this year up. So this year is not about doing things perfectly. This year is about showing up and doing the things I say I will do to the best of my ability. There's an expanded view on that outlook that actually comes from a discussion around participation trophies in sports. Something I think I've talked about on this podcast on a previous episode. But it's a discussion that I had in a private group when discussing child participation in sports as part of a safeguarding course that I was on, where the small group of people I got put off into a workshop group with were people who'd never competed in sports. And their view was we should take away first, second, third place, stop giving outcome related things to kids that compete in sports. And my beef with that was that it takes away the responsibility. It takes away the ability for somebody to put the weight on the effort instead of the outcome. Because if you don't have an outcome to a sporting event, let's say a football match, if you're not going to have a win or a loss, why are you going to put weight on the effort? Which to me is the important part of winning and losing. These medals over the top of my head, these are reminders that those are times that I suck. Well, except the gold one. The gold one is where I won a powerlifting comp. The other ones are participation trophies from bodybuilding. I've showed this over and over again. This is the first one where I actually won a competition. And this is important. It made me feel great that I finally won. It took me 7 years to win the class at a bodybuilding competition. Every other comp, I wasn't devastated that I lost. I was excited that there was nothing else that I could have done in order to win. I did everything right. I did the diet, I did the training, I did the cardio, I got the sleep, I drank the water, I did everything perfect. But there was people that showed up on the day that were just simply better. I learned from that experience to tie my value to the effort I give to something, not the outcome I receive from it. And if my son, or rather my future son, watches how this year goes and learns something from it, that's the main thing I want him to get from it. That it doesn't matter about the outcome if you did everything you could do to achieve that outcome. Win or lose, effort is everything. And that's what my 2026 is going to be all about. What does winning actually look like for me this year? Not online, not in theory. What does the win actually look like? And this is a question, if you've not answered any of the ones that we've seen yet, this is the one I want you to write down and spend time working on yourself. Winning for me, as I just said, is showing up and doing what I say I will do. Things within my relationship, my household, and my life privately, from the space of podcasting and coaching and doing all of these things, showing up and doing the small things in the house, doing the cleaning that I say that I will do, paying the bills that I say that I will pay. All these little things, if I show up and do those basic things all year, if I get myself to my full license this year, because something you may not know about me is I am 33 and I don't drive. I got my provisional license late last year. In March, I'm allowed to apply for my full license. An agreement that I have with my partner, Anya, is that I will be driving to make our life easier. We will get a second car so that we can have an easier transport journey between the two of us, and that she doesn't need to drive when we go long distances. And so that because at the end of the year we're planning to start a family, it would be the worst thing in the world if we needed to go to a hospital when she was nearly there and she had to drive herself. So winning for me this year is layered. One thing is me driving by March. Another thing is just showing up in the house and doing what we need to do. But a much bigger one is putting the foot to the floor when it comes to the Better Man program, so that I can show up in the way that I've been trying to show up for the last 3 years. In a way where when I make this podcast a year from now, at the start of 2027, which is crazy that that's now next year, that I'm sitting here telling you all that I did all the things, here's all these cool people that I helped, here's all these lives I changed, and I've got a baby on the way, and there's all these wonderful things. So that is what winning will look like for me. There could be a different version of that win, because I might do all the right things, and things might not work out with the outcomes that I have planned and hoped for. But if I have showed up and done everything to the best of my ability, I'll be able to pat myself on the back for having done the right shit. I'll be disappointed, but I will be fulfilled if I have done everything I need to do to get there. What is one standard I'm raising in January that makes the rest of the year easier? Because there's no such thing as easy. The standard is going to be not doing anything, and rather not committing to anything that I'm not going to do. So for this entire year, but starting with January, if I don't think I can do something, I'm not going to agree to it. And that's something that didn't work for me in 2025. I said yes to a lot of things that I didn't have the bandwidth to do. This year, I'm going to expand the bandwidth, but I'm also only going to agree to things that I know that I can show up for. Because when you say, yes, I can do that project, and then things get in the way and you don't get that project complete, you break an agreement with yourself. Never mind the person that you promised you would do the thing. When that happens over and over and over again, you create a negative feedback loop in your head that your word doesn't matter to you. So if you're somebody listening to this who last year said, I'm going to get in shape this year, and that's the best example I can give for nearly all of these personal development pieces, because it's tangible. It's something you can take hold of. Your physical appearance, your physical capabilities are things that you can wrap your head around. So I don't want to always pull things back to the physical, but it's important so that you can picture what I'm talking about here. In January last year, you said, this is the year I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week. I'm going to eat good food. I'm not going to drink as much. I'm going to get myself in good shape. And then you didn't go to the gym and you didn't eat better food and you continued to go on the piss more than you should have. Every time you didn't do what you were supposed to do or did the thing you weren't supposed to do, you gave yourself a little signal that your word doesn't matter to you. And as a result, that leaks out into the rest of the world, in your relationship, in your business relationships, in your friend groups, in the different places where your word should matter to other people. It won't, because it doesn't matter to you. So for me, that is the number one thing I'm focused on this year. If I can't do something, I won't say that I can't. If I can do something and I agree to it, the thing's getting done. For example, today, I need to make a phone call to the electric company because for some reason one of our payments bounced when it shouldn't have. I need to call them and sort it out. Over the last year, there's been times where I got busy. As we said earlier, I wasn't busy. I had a schedule that allowed me to feel like I was busy. And those calls would get missed and they get pushed out a week or pushed out another week and the bill would crawl up. That left us with a bigger bill than we should have had. That's not going to happen this year. So today, when the podcast is done and 1 or 2 messages are sent out, the last task on my list is giving that electric company a call to make sure that they charge us and take the money that they should on time. If this is resounding for you and you're like, what's the standard I need to raise for myself in January, and it's something similar, start writing it down. You can't see it here, but there's a board over there where I'm starting to write down my daily tasks and I'm ticking them off one at a time. I'm also trying not to add too many things to that. But I also want to get into the fact that these questions are not motivational. They're orientation questions to force me to stop drifting and start aiming. And as cheesy and ChatGPT as that sounds, it's true. Because a lot of you trying to better yourself are finding things that feel great to be motivated by while you're reading them, while you're talking about them, without actually having something to aim at. So my suggestion for you, if you've gotten this far in the podcast, is to go through the list of questions I've given. Pick 1 or 2 of them that really resonate with you if the list seems too big for you to knock out, and sit with them and give clear action from those questions. I was motivated and inspired to do this question framework by Modern Wisdom. I think I've talked about that on every single podcast so far, and I probably still will because it's my eventual goal to either end up on Modern Wisdom or get Mr. Williamson on We Need to Talk, because I would love to talk to the man. I've learned a lot from the guests he's had on his show. He puts out a yearly review template where there's a long series of questions to ask yourself how your year went in a bit of detail. Get yourself to look at some of the memories of the year. What kind of benefits have you built from this year? Let me see if I can pull up my piece of this. I'm sure I can. Yup. Ooh, we're losing something. We're back. I, in typical Matt fashion, did that in a way where I got the template, I gave it to my AI assistant and asked it to make it into a Google form for me. The way it was set up was just a Google Doc with a whole hell of a lot of questions. The way I set it up allowed me to answer these questions one at a time because I'm pretty good at this stage at answering a bunch of hard questions for myself. So the first one was like, how has this year gone? Which is a pretty vague question. And the way I've structured this from the questions on the list was to start with that, work my way through the more piece by piece questions to allow me to pull back and give a bit more depth to that. I'm not going to go through my answers today because I think that's its own conversation, maybe for sharing with a guest. But in the memory section, that's one that really helped me pull out how did my year go. Because it was things like, what was my best surprise? What was my best meal? Coolest new experience? Favorite weekend? Favorite first meeting? Favorite new city? Sedona in Arizona, in case you're wondering. Most beautiful city me and Anya have ever been to. If you haven't been, I could not recommend it strongly enough. Things like favorite new friend. Kian, I hope you listen to this. You are definitely number one on that list. So I'm growing really close with that man and really enjoying talking, getting to know each other better. But going through these kind of reviews for your year with a little bit more detail can be a great way to frame and plan what your next year is going to be like. In the plan section, there's a few heavy questions, like what would I do this year if I wanted to make 85-year-old me miserable? What would 85-year-old me wish I did more of? Those are questions that make you think long game, which pulls me back to the start of the podcast, talking about James Cameron and his long game. Man's 71. He's still got a good few years in him. But I'm sure if he asked himself those kind of questions when he was in his 20s or even his 30s, he's probably fulfilling that answer in a way now that 71-year-old him would look back to 35-year-old him and be like, thank you for doing exactly what we needed to do and showed up the way that we needed to show up. Regardless of the accolades and the outcomes that the movies gave, the effort I'm sure that man put into building that movie empire would have made him proud regardless of the outcome of the movies. The awards, the money, the any of that probably pales in comparison to knowing that he put in the effort that he promised himself that he would. Without rambling any further, because I know it's hard to hear one person talk non-stop to themselves for a long episode, I'm going to pin this one at 31 minutes, thereabouts, crawling up on 32, by telling you what's going to happen this year at Better Man. The Better Man program has a big focus on online, and it's a bigger focus on emotional growth than on fitness coaching. However, by vocation and by experience, I am an incredible fitness coach, for lack of a better term. I don't particularly like that as a term, but it's what most people understand. I prefer to consider myself a strength and body adjustment expert. If you have pain in your body and think you can't lift heavy, you're wrong, just because you don't have context for how we can adjust, strengthen, and mobilize your body in ways that will give you back access to parts of your body you didn't know you could. People whose knees hurt them, that can go away with adequate training. If your shoulders feel fucked, we can fix that. If your back is the reason that you don't lift heavy because you're scared you're going to hurt it, we need to lift heavy so that your back doesn't hurt. Those are things that we can focus on as the main mover at the beginning of your time with the Better Man program, to use that as a tool to teach you that you can show up and do things that matter to you. Because the framework that I like to go through with the program is to find something that you can succeed at by doing daily repetitive actions that will build up to an outcome you're proud of, in order to teach you that there is anything, if there is anything in the world that's important to you, you're capable of doing it because you can say what you do and do what you say. In a closing statement of this, because I'm getting a bit rambly, it's the first episode of the year. I was not going to miss the first posting of Friday for the year, so we're just getting it done. If you're interested in joining the program, genuinely, there's only 5 spaces that I'm opening up in January for the online program. I will put links to get into that in the show notes, in the YouTube description, wherever you might be watching this, and it's going to go up on Instagram on the stories every day until those places are fulfilled. It's a very simple entry in January. It's €150 for the Start January Strong offer. If you join at the end of the week, I'll extend it into February. Essentially, it's a 28-day focus on one thing, be that your physical fitness, your mental health focus, whatever is important and whatever you think I can help you with, that is our only focus for those 28 days. If at the end of that you feel like you want to go a little bit deeper and join the full program, you can. One non-negotiable as part of that is going to be training. Regardless of what your goal is, you're going to need to train during those 28 days. You'll get a program inside the private app that we use to deliver training to the clients. It will make it paint by numbers. You won't be wondering what you should lift in the gym. You'll just show up and do it. And now, before I ramble too much, I will see you next week. We have a couple of guests lined up over the next few weeks that I will be announcing across Instagram to build some hype and get people excited because it's going to be a fun year. Thank you for listening. Sorry that this was such a ramble. This has been incredible to get some stuff off my chest, but this is the We Need to Talk podcast, episode 4. This is going to be a big year. I look forward to getting to know the listeners of this show better.